I like things simple. I like to boil things down to an essence. Might have something to do with the fact that English is a foreign language to me and that I have to, and as I learned English, I only was able to express myself in crude ways, but that forced me to make my point clear. The reason I started to knit was in reaction to the suicide of someone I very much admired as an artist. While my work up to that point was very colorful and expressionistic, I from really one day to the next took all color out of my work and all of that expressiveness and really subjected myself to this rigorous, monotonous discipline. It wasn't a conceptual decision, it was an emotional decision. Knitting can be very meditative and monotonous, but exactly that quality gives you time, and that time was actually that was the crux of the matter. I never made more than one kind of stitch. I never got into patterning and any of this because it was never about knitting. It was about performance. Going through a certain motion repetitively, in this case for 10 years. People only witnessed the outcome of the performance, the legacy of that time spent. And knit sculpture was something that kept me so isolated for so long in the studio. Once I committed myself to a piece, I had to follow it through, which could easily take 2-3 months. So once I started, I was locked into an idea, and the only thing that could really move was my mind. And I felt that these early video pieces were a way for me to express what was going on in my mind. One of my first videos, Exit, starts out with me sitting in the chair that I usually knit in, and then it just turns into this flight of fancy. Certain fantasies that I dreamt about while I was knitting. The videos were a way for me to be flamboyant. In my first few videos, I am in it because I had to try stuff out. But eventually I replaced myself with other people. My thing is sort of to bring mostly strangers into the studio. Not always, very often it's friends too. But even with my friends, there is this sort of need there to do something out of the ordinary. I don't think of the people I work with as models or as actors. They're not. They are people who are willing to sacrifice their time. Like this. Maybe we should do it backwards. Well, in the end, these things are collaborations.
Yeah. Maybe just move her leg slightly out.
The two people that are here today are my two old reliables. I really got to know them very well through making videos.
One more time. Forward, closer, closer, closer. There you go.
Okay.
Hold on. If you can, sort of look at me. That's it. Now. Actually, that didn't work. Lie like this. Now. Oh, that was just well.
I don't care too much about the medium. I don't even care so much about the object. I really care about the process. Try and get as much in your face as possible. Oh, it's red. It's amazing, keep going.
That's a beauty. Close yours for a second. Okay.
You know, these guys don't react in the way they would ordinarily react to a situation where they meet a stranger. It's because of the circumstances and the eccentricity of it that it becomes, you sort of shortcut a lot of formality, and it becomes very, very soon informal. And I don't just mean the fact that these guys spit food dye for hours. It is a very intimate experience because it's unusual and because you have to really give a part of yourself to do it. It's exhausting. While these two images formally or in terms of the process are similar, the emphasis is very different. And I usually wait for a moment that brings out some kind of vulnerability, and it usually, I never know when it happens, it just happens at some point, and there's this very personal connection there that happens. And that's what I'm after. It's this personal connection with somebody, some stranger in a way. The focus when I work with a person for one of these sculptures is a very quiet focus, which is much harder to endure, especially when you do this on an ongoing basis for 2 or 3 months. I think maybe the intimacy of the process is somewhat disturbing to me because it's not the kind of intimacy that I generate when we make a video where the focus is on fun and action. The focus when I work with a person for one of these sculptures is a very quiet focus. I'm trying to match the image with the actual place on her body. Here is, I placed this part and I matched it against her body. With this figure over there, I didn't have that luxury. He came in usually at night because he had to work during the day. Throughout the process, when I attached the photographs, he wasn't here at all, and I just sort of had to imagine what it would look like. I carved the structure, and then I just took it from there, based on some photographs that I had. The Summernitz part came about after an accident where I slipped a disc in my neck, and I could literally not move one of my arms. So I felt the only thing I could do was work with one person, because that seemed manageable, since I really couldn't maneuver around. Was actually quite happy that the conditions under which I had to work were radically altered because it made me think differently about what I could do. One guy who I had worked with in a video before, every week, 2 or 3 times we met over the course of 3 months. It was really an extended project, and we just improvised. I decided that it might be interesting to cut his hair, for him to shave his hair, and of course he didn't want to do that. So a lot of that time it was about me trying to convince him that he would look much better without hair, and then in the end he agreed. Most people are much more unusual and complicated and eccentric and playful and creative than they have the time to express play. It's a thing that we put on hold because we get distracted by so many other things. We have to make money, we have to pay the bills, we grow up, and these roles that we play, they're not real. but after a while they become real, they become us. Play is sort of a reminder of what that was like to be a kid. And we, in the end, never lose that. I think it's always there. I mean, you carry your past inside of you, that's clear, so why should it ever disappear? I think whether it's video or performance or these sculptures, it is really the learning experience of making these things that give me in my life meaning.
To learn more about Art21, Art in the 21st Century, and to download the free Educator's Guide, please visit PBS online at pbs.org. Art21, Art in the 21st Century is available on videocassette or with additional features on DVD. The companion book to the program is also available. To order, call PBS Home Video at 1-800-PLAY-PBS.